Hi guys, today I'm about to go on an adventure, and that adventure is called the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So I've been waiting and waiting to read the book and watch the show. The show just announced they're having a season 2, and I haven't even watched season 1 because I wanted to read the book first, and I didn't read the book because I didn't want to buy the book, or I wasn't sure how emotionally invested I was to buy the book. So I was waiting. I was on this list for the app called Libby, which is where you can borrow books from your public library. I was on the waiting list for like 10 weeks. I finally got like book number 1 and I'm ready to start. I'm about to binge read the book so I can watch the show and then continue on with the rest of the trilogy, which is book 2 and 3. I actually have no idea what it's about. I just know it's a YA fantasy novel, and with fantasy novels it's always hard to start off in the beginning because you're like welcoming into this like whole new world and you have no idea like who the characters, the locations, and even sometimes the language are. But once you're like in it, you're just emotionally attached to the characters and the plot and everything that's about to come, which ever since I finished my favorite fantasy novels of all time, I just haven't been okay to read another one, and I wasn't sure if I'm ready for that commitment, but I think I'm ready now. And without further ado, let's get started. I'm excited. Hi guys, it's a little bit later on in the day and I've been reading all day pretty much. I stopped to draw, but I'm on chapter 9 right now, and I think I will stop every couple of chapters to give some thoughts, opinions, and maybe talk about some questions I have. I even took notes so I can remember what I had to say, and I'm just all of this will be spoiler free, so I'm only gonna like mention like thoughts I have without mentioning too much, and like no plots or anything. So the first thing is, I've always concluded this with fantasy novels, it's that they're always confusing in the beginning, and that's because you're thrown into this completely different set of world that has like a whole new type of like location, which is like geography. Sometimes they include maps. They're mentioning people you've never heard of, and their whole like dialect or the society or everything that like is set to like unique to them is something that's completely new to the reader. So that's always like a little tough when you're at the very beginning, because you're like super confused. You're flipping pages back and forth trying to figure out what you just read, and if it's connected to anything else you're reading so far. But other than that, I like the progression of the novel. I think it's at a steady pace where everything is feeling consistent, and I don't think anything is lacking. I'm at like up to, I think, chapter 3 is when I started getting into like the world. I have a better understanding and I was no longer as confused. But with these like fantasy novels, there's always a little confusion. That's part of the mystery and the excitement. So I like the pace of the novel. I'm excited to get to know more about the society and work and learn the way that it works. So in the novel, there's these like type of like systems, like cliques, and these people are placed in these groups. I just want to see the tension, and I want to see the dirty nitty-gritty gossip of this world. I mean, they've shown some of it, and so far the YA love tension has already been present. It's like present on page like 2, I will say, and I like it. Adds a little bit of spice, brings the YA to the fantasy novel, and it's just it's so teenage love-like. And I'm not a very big love person when it comes to like reading love novels, but when it comes to like YA fantasy, it's always good to have a little bit of that in there because it just keeps everything fresh, keeps it unique. And yeah, so far I like it. I'm not like obsessed with it, but I do like it. The only thing that is like bothering me right now is that I haven't seen the show, but I did watch the trailers, so I already seen like some of the cast. And as I'm reading the novel and like these characters are developing, who I'm imagining and what IMDb is showing me is a little bit off. So it's like in my mind I have these set of characters, and then like on the show they're showing like a different type of cast that I just didn't really imagine. Like in the novel they explain that like the main character, the girl Alina, she's not the prettiest, and she's very plain looking. But I feel like the girl they casted in the show, she's beautiful. I think she's so attractive, and that just, you know, throws me a little off. I thought someone was gonna be really plain. I get it, it's still Hollywood, they gotta keep the faces attractive for people to watch the show who haven't read the book. But that's the only thing, and that's a personal thing. But I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes. I think I will keep reading for the rest of the night because I stopped at a place where I just want to keep reading more. And that's the thing with these like fantasy novels, is you get addicted. You get addicted to the world, and you just want to solve this mystery, and you want to uncover the dark secrets they're hiding in their chambers, because there's always chambers. But yeah, I will keep reading, and I will update you guys when I have more thoughts, opinions, and questions. So it's been a day, and I just finished chapter 14. I'm so excited. I'm recording this so I could go back to reading because I want to collect my thoughts. So I read from chapter 8 to 14. I'm about to go into 15 now, and let's just say we had a breakthrough, and I can feel that like something big is about to happen because things are like happy and like, you know, upsy, and then there's tension. It's good. It's that YA tension that, you know, where it's like, you know, things are gonna be bad for a little bit and it's gonna be all okay because it's YA. How bad could things get? And then oh, so I wrote down that reading this, I feel like there's something missing, like an itch I can't scratch. Like going through some of the pages and some like the words, that's how I'm feeling, and I kind of still feel that. And like, just to expand on that thought, is that I feel like reading the beginning of like these chapters, I understood the characters, but there's just something more. Like I wanted a little bit more from each person, from each scenario, from each character, from each like just page. Like I think I just wanted a little bit more, and I don't know if that's just because I'm like barely like halfway through the book, so I'm not even like halfway through the trilogy, and by the end of the trilogy I'll feel fulfilled. So we're gonna put a little pin on that thought and come back to that. And then the mystery and love tension is still very, very much alive. Let's just emphasize the love tension is very much alive. Yeah, and then since like this isn't really a spoiler, but like they're categorized into different groups for their powers, and then there's like a kind of like school environment which is very young adult like, and I feel like the petty drama, petty gossip keeps things spicy, keeps things interesting. And so it's not just like life or death stuff going on. There's definitely some less intense / less severe consequences and events happening. And then with these type of books, like fantasy books, I always feel like I need to take notes and write like the names down, the words, the categories of people, because sometimes I still get confused on the categorization of each group and their powers and like the colors that's associated with the people. And then within the groups there's like subcategories, so I feel like I'm still getting a grip on that. And then my last note that I wrote down is that I really like the attention to detail for the description of the decor and the description of their surrounding. I feel like the author does a really good job in setting the location and just the scene. Like I can imagine it, so I'm excited to watch the show because I want to see if it matches up with what's in my head. I mean, there's probably gonna be like a bunch of things that's different, but the author just does such a good job in detailing the description that I feel like it's kind of hard to go too far off of what the book already says. Yeah, so that's pretty much all my thoughts and opinions from chapter 8 to 14. I'm excited to keep reading, and I don't think I'll finish by tonight because it's already 12. So I think I will be finished by tomorrow, and then I can start watching the show and prep for book number 2. Hi guys, I just finished the novel probably like 5 minutes ago. I pretty much read from chapter 15 all the way towards the end of the book, and let's get started on some of my thoughts, reviews, opinions, and questions, and maybe future questions. but here it goes. I wrote down some of my points. Number one that I wrote down was I guessed one of the 2 plot twists in the book, and the plot twist is like towards the end, but I actually guessed it in the very beginning in one of the first interactions or encounters of these characters. And it's not because the author gave it away or wrote anything like super blatantly obvious that just gives the reader like the connecting points, but I think it's purely because I've read similar novels to this, and with YA fantasies or fantasies, there's just only so many plot twists that you can roll out before people start getting used to them. So I did get one of the 2 plot twists, which made the reveal a little less exciting, and I wasn't really anticipating anything more. The second point that I wrote down is that the ending of the book, or book number 1, is very cliche, but I didn't expect anything less or more. So it's exactly what I expected, because this is, like I said again, a YA fantasy, and I get that I'm not necessarily the targeted demographic for this novel. So a lot of the story plots, the climax, and the tension is just on par with what is expected, and I didn't think there was going to be any revelating ending or twist, but I thought it was still pretty good. So overall I gave it a 4 out of 5, because even though it's just good, it's good enough for the category that it's in. And the reason why I gave it a 4 out of 5 is because I didn't feel overly attached to any of the characters, and I didn't feel like any of the character developments really stood out, but I did really enjoy the universe that the author created. And talking about the universe, I actually like looked into this more. So this universe is called the grishaverse because the people in this world, some of them are grishas, which are pretty much like, a simple way of explaining it is kind of like elemental sorcerers. And this series is related to Six of Crows because it's written by the same author. And in the beginning of the year I had said that Six of Crows is a book I really wanted to read, and I actually have the physical novel, but because I am in Taiwan right now, the novel is in El Paso, so I started Shadow and Bone because I wanted to watch a Netflix series. So as I was scrolling through Netflix, reading like the quick synopsis they have for each episode, I realized that Shadow and Bone, the TV show, it's based off of the novel Shadow and Bone, but it's pretty much a prequel to the book Six of Crows. And I didn't know this because I actually didn't look into the show at all whatsoever, so this was kind of a shock to me. I was kind of worried that it was going to spoil the book Six of Crows for me before I even started reading it, but then I kind of like googled on Reddit, and everyone said that it was pretty much a prequel. So some of the characters are brought up, but it's not a direct link to Six of Crows. So whatever plot that happens in the book isn't happening in the show, which is good because I didn't want to get things spoiled. So this whole world is called the Grishaverse. So Six of Crows characters and Shadow and Bone characters live simultaneously in this universe, probably in different locations of the world or parts of the world, and their paths may or may not cross. I don't really know that yet, but the universe that the author is a female, which is why I said she created, is very enticing. There is a whole system of the way that the elemental sorcerers are, and there's obviously like average or normal people with no powers, and then there's like army. It's very fantasy, but I appreciate it. So I'm actually very excited to finish the trilogy and start reading Six of Crows as soon as I land in El Paso. Like once my foot steps on the soil of El Paso, Texas, I will be reading those books. That's been bumped up to the top of my list. But as for now, while I wait for the second book, which is called, I think, Siege and Storm, because I'm borrowing it from Libby, I'm in queue for like, I think there's like 16 people ahead of me, so I'm waiting like about 4 weeks, hopefully faster. So before I start reading the second and third book, I'm going to watch the Netflix show, and maybe I'll record some of my reactions and then give a thought. I will definitely give thoughts and opinions once I finish the show, because I'm definitely going to binge watch it before I upload this video. So I will see you once I finish the Netflix show. Maybe I'll pause in between, but yeah, let's go start watching the show. I'm excited because I want to start comparing, and I want to see the magical world of Grishaverse and the awesome, beautiful decor that is perfectly detailed in all of these novels. And the fashion. I'm excited for the fashion. When it comes to fantasy novels, the fashion never disappoints, so that is definitely on top of my list. I will give a fashion critique of Grishaverse and Shadow of Bone, so see you guys in a bit. I don't want somebody I love to see me like that. Okay, checking in here. I am a little over halfway through the episode, the show. I'm on episode 6. There's a total of 8 episodes. I was going to pause on after episode 4 to give a quick overview on my opinions, but I totally forgot. Also, it's like 1:25 a.m. because I'm pushing through. Honestly, so far the show, it's not appealing to me. I feel like it really just is kind of flopping. It's not doing anything justice because they're trying to pack in like 2 trilogies. Oh well, 1 trilogy, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and they're trying to pack in like a lot of the prequels to Six of Crows. There's like overstuffing of characters, and then they also made like random characters that aren't really relevant, so they don't have the space to showcase any real character development, or the plots so far don't seem climactic enough, and there's not really any breakthrough. I don't feel like my emotions are being stirred. The love tension is just so blech. One thing I will say is like so far I do like the wardrobe and the decor. The setting is very steampunk fashion set in like the 19th century, if I have that correct. So that part is good. Everything else is just not hitting. I wrote down a bunch of plots that I probably will go over once I finish the show to give a fair judgment, but as of right now it's like a 2 out of a 5 for me. Maybe a 1 point. Okay, it's a 2 out of 5. I won't say 1.5. That's like a little too low. It's a 2 out of 5. It's just not hitting. And I like, if I wasn't filming a video and if I hadn't read the book, I would probably just stop watching because I feel like it's ruining the trilogy for me. Just, it's not doing anything justice. I hope towards the end I can take all of what I'm saying back, and it's actually a great show and I'm just misjudging everything. And this is like no hate to like the actors, actresses, or any of the people working on the show. I'm just talking about the show in general. Like, I feel like the actors and actresses are actually pretty good. I'm in love with Jessie May Lee. She's beautiful. But the show itself and the characters within the book or within the show are not it. And yeah, so I look really tired because I really am tired. I'm like over the show. I don't want to watch it anymore, but I have 3 more episodes and I know I can do it. So I'll check in with you once I'm done with the show. Hi guys, I finished the show a couple hours ago and I wrote down my notes. I'm ready to get started and start talking about it, so let's go ahead. First off, I still stick by everything I said when I was like halfway through the season, and just a little recap of what I said is that I love the steampunk fashion, I love the decor, and I love the ambiance it gave, which is just like everything was a little dark and gritty and a little bit dirty, so you can tell it was set in like the 19th century, or it was like trying to be the 19th century. And this is where everything kind of goes downhill. So obviously the book is always better than the shows or adaptations. I stick by that. The book is so much better because a lot of the details that was left out is what made a lot of the characters, the character relations really develop. And it was also what made a lot of the characters likable, or it was also what made a lot of the characters have more depth to them. But the reason why I feel like they did that was because they needed to fit some of the Six of Crows prequel in there. So if this was just a Shadow and Bone standalone, then taking all of the Six of Crows people out of there, they would definitely have the ability to do that. And then what I also wrote down is that I feel like the show lacked any space to showcase real character development or breakthroughs. Just the characters don't seem like real people. Everything is just so surface level. Everything that they're doing and all that is to them is just very plain and simple. Even when they do show you like the character's past, you're like, well, that's kind of cliche. And then a quick synopsis: Alina is like the equivalent of a human flashlight. Like that's exactly how they made her powers seem on the show, just a human flashlight. Which she's supposed to be like a sun summoner, but she kind of just summons light, but not like sunlight. I thought it was gonna be more grand, it was gonna be more epic, like when her powers like seep through her, it's just kind of like boop. But yeah, that's my opinion. And then I also feel like it doesn't have a climactic breakthrough. Everything that happens kind of plateaus out. I don't feel like my emotions are being stirred. I'm not at the edge of my seat. Nothing is super intense. And when like you get to the peak moment, you're like, well, I kind of thought that was going to happen, or just, oh, it already happened. And then one pro I did write down is that they humanized the villain in the show, giving him a deeper backstory and showcasing his story. Also, by giving him a different name, they made him a lot more realistic and rather just a one-sided villain from the book so far. And then this is what I wrote down that was like a big thing for me. I thought that the parts that made the show good was what was missing from the book, and what made the show not good is what was not put in from the book. And to decipher that really fast, I mean, the parts of the show that made it good was the extra writing they put in and the extra scene, the extra moments that was not included in the book. And I feel like when I read the book, that those parts was what was missing. When I said I felt like there was something missing and an itch I can't scratch, ironically I'm scratching my face, but yeah, it's like the extra writing that they needed. So I feel like as a show they included that. But what was missing from the show is the parts that they did write in the book that they didn't include, which gave more depth and emphasis, and also just the extensive world of grishaverse that was not part of it. So that's what I feel like was lacking on both ends. And to my surprise, I actually like the Six of Crows part more than the Shadow of Bones. I like the characters, I like the relations, I also like kind of their backstory. Like they only showed a bit of their backstory, but their personality was just more likable. They were also a lot more relatable. Everything was more down to earth. Like the trio that was going on was just so much better than whatever was happening to Shadow of Bones, which makes me more excited to read a Six of Crows, or like to see if they eventually turn that into its own Netflix series. And for Shadow of Bone, I just thought, you know what, it is what it is. So overall, I gave the show a 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like if it wasn't for the book, I would maybe give it like a 3.5 stars out of yeah, maybe if it wasn't for the book, I would give it a 3.5, or maybe even a 4. But because I had read the book, it's just not, it does not compare. And another thing is that because this is like the first beginning series to like the trilogy, I know there's gonna be a lot more going on, which means I can definitely change my score. And I kept trying to remind myself that this is, this is a YA fantasy, so the demographic may not be me, which is why a lot of the parts that I feel like people would like, I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it. Like the YA love scenes, like the tension, the I want you but I can't have you even though we both like each other type, or the very like simple-minded, straightforward thinking. There was just no complexity to it, but the plot was pretty much exactly from the book. And overall, I thought it was pretty good. I had a good time this week. It definitely took up a lot of my time reading the book, watching the show, and then doing like a little research onto the whole Grishaverse. So I'm very excited to read book number 2 and 3. I'll definitely finish the trilogy book-wise. I don't know if I'll watch the show again, or season 2, season 3. That just depends on when it comes out and if I'm even interested in it by then, because love the cast. This show made me fall in love with Jessie May Lee. She is beautiful, literally the most perfect human being on planet Earth, and I would just love to see her on screen more, which I'm excited to follow her work, but maybe not this set of work. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and you should comment what other books or trilogies I should read next, or shows I should watch, because Taiwan is still in lockdown, so I got a lot of time on my hands. But thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next week.